So my name is David Hayes. I am the Greene County Prosecuting Attorney, so I'm the elected prosecutor here in Greene County. I have been with the prosecutor's office since 2004. I worked 16 years as an assistant prosecutor, prosecuting felony offenses here in Greene County. And since 2020, I've been the elected prosecuting attorney. I'm the able gentleman who are with me today. As our sheriff, Scott Anger, in the back, he'll introduce himself when he has his portion, and David Peterson, who is a local attorney in Xenia. So, we are here today to talk about scam presentations. So, that is what our presentation is about. And why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because senior citizens are getting scammed. And the extent to which they are getting scammed is remarkable. There were 150,000 cases of elder fraud reported in the state of Ohio in 2020, with a loss of about $190 million. That's just reported. And as you can imagine, these crimes are vastly underreported. The truth is that most crimes are underreported, but this particular crime is very underreported for a couple reasons. The first is that a lot of people are embarrassed if they become a victim of this type of crime. And they're embarrassed for a couple reasons. The first is that they should know better. That's what they tell themselves. I should know better. And I don't want anybody else to know that I have been taken advantage of. And that concern is particularly acute with some older folks who don't want their relatives or anyone else in their lives to think that they may be slipping a little bit. I want to assure you, though, that if you become a victim of this type of crime, you're not alone. And you're not the victim because you're slipping or because you weren't smart enough. It's because the people who are doing this are very good at what they do. Now, here's the reality that over 350,000 seniors were victimized to a tune of, are you ready? $4 billion with a B. And that's just in the state of Ohio. Nationally, more than 1 in 10 elderly people in the United States fell victim to elder fraud last year with an average loss of over $20,000. And the total estimated loss across the country is over $110 billion with a B. And we have one goal. What do they want? They want your money. And they're very good at getting your money. And how do they try to do that? So today, my portion of the presentation is I'm going to talk briefly about some popular scams that are going on right now that are perpetrated via telephone, email, the internet, those sorts of things. Then I'm going to talk to you briefly about crimes that I prosecute in my office that concern elder abuse. And full attribution here. The information about the larger financial scams has been provided by the National Council on Aging. So why are we here? Well, we're here, and the reason why I thought this was so important is because in the 18 years that I have been with the prosecutor's office, and to the extent that we have seen these scams perpetrated against senior citizens in particular, one of the themes that has been repeated in my mind like a drum is that prevention is the absolute key. I'm sure that you've heard that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. With regard to this, it is worth a ton of cure. And the reason for that is that the scammers who are good at taking large amounts of money are very often multinational or international criminals. And Sheriff, do you have jurisdiction outside of Greene County?
No, sir, I don't.
No, and I don't either. We prosecute crimes that occur in Greene County. So if you fall victim to someone who is perpetrating a crime with a computer and they're sitting in Russia, they're sitting in Jamaica, they're sitting in South America somewhere, do you think that the sheriff and I are going to be able to go get them? No, we are not going to be able to go get them. And you shouldn't be confident that the FBI or the United States government is going to be able to get them either. The point here is that if you lose your money to the scams of the type that we're going to talk about, the chances of you getting it back are not very good. They are not very good. So it is important that you look for the signs of a scam and that you be able to spot them so that you can prevent yourself from being a victim in the first place. So, here are the red flags. And that first one is in red for a reason. If you don't remember anything else that I say today, remember this. The number one red flag for a scam is that the communication that you are receiving is unsolicited. You did not ask for it, all right? It is coming to you either via email, it's coming to you via text, it's coming to you as a pop-up on your computer, it is coming to you as a phone call, it may come to you as a knock on the door. But the point is that if you get a communication during the course of which you are asked for money and you did not seek out that communication, you need to be very wary. You need to be very wary. And the smart thing to do is to treat it like a scam from the beginning until you are able to confirm that it is valid. That's number one. And that is the most important. Number two, during the communication, there's going to be a demand made for money. And that demand is going to be urgent. That's another red flag. Now, there's one exception to this that we'll talk about, and that's the romance scam that we'll talk about in a little bit. They're also going to want personal identifying information. So what are those? What are some examples of that? Just shout it out. Social security numbers, what else? Driver's license numbers, bank account numbers. Yes, this is the type of information they're going to try to get you to give them the first time that you talk to somebody. And if the first time that you're talking to somebody, they are asking you for personal identifying information, and you didn't call them, that's a red flag. So keep that in mind. And then finally, they will ask you for payment in a very peculiar way. They will ask you for payment in the form of a wire transfer, or they will ask you for payment in the form of gift cards. The point being that the way that they want to be paid cannot be traced on the back end, all right? Meaning once that money has left you, there's no way to trace where it went. So that's something else that you want to keep in mind. So with that, let's get right to it. The first scam is what we call the government imposter scam. Now, the way this one works is that you're going to be at home, you'll get a call, you may get a text, you may get an email, and the person on the other end of that communication is going to claim that they are from fill in the blank. They're from the IRS, they're from Medicare, they are from the FBI, they are from any number of government agencies, and during the course of that communication, they're going to tell you that you have overdue taxes. They're going to tell you that your premiums for Medicare or have you fallen behind? And they're going to tell you that there's one thing that you can do today that will ensure that your benefits will continue. And take a wild guess what that is. Money. That's right. They will threaten to arrest you if you don't pay them. They will threaten to end your benefits if you don't provide your personal identifying information. I was at home about 3 years ago. It was a Sunday. I can't remember if it was football season or not. I don't think it was, because I don't remember being perturbed by the phone call. So I go to the phone, I pick up the phone, and I am informed that it is none other than a deputy from the Greene County Sheriff's Office. And that I have an active warrant for my arrest. And that if I don't pay this person over the phone $500, they're going to come to my house and arrest me. And now I informed the person, I said, listen, I'll be home all day. I'm not going to give you my address. I assume you already have it if you work for the Sheriff's Department. And, you know, I work right around the corner, so I can just come in tomorrow and we can take care of it. And they hung up the phone. Now, I knew what I was looking for, but that is something that happens quite a bit. And the reason that it works, especially with seniors, the reason that it works is because a lot of seniors still hold on to something that, as the father of 2 daughters in their 20s, I can tell you they don't necessarily have, which is a respect for authority. When somebody calls you and they tell you that they are from a government agency or from an authority figure, you pay attention and you're inclined to believe them. And that's one of the reasons that it works. So how do you protect yourself from this scam? Well, number one, listen for the 2 red flags. They're going to demand money. Anytime in the first communication that you have with anyone, if they're demanding money from you, that is a red flag. Secondly, they're going to ask for personal identifying information. They're going to want to know, guess what? your Social Security number. They're going to want to know your login information for your Social Security account. They're going to want to know information about you with regard to Medicare or with regard to your taxes. So the easiest thing in the world when you get this call is just hang up the phone. Hang up the phone and then contact whatever agency they tell you they're from. If they say they're from the IRS, call the IRS. If they tell you they're from Medicare, call Medicare. And I want you to remember this. There is no government entitlement program that can be terminated over the phone. So if somebody is telling you that they're going to terminate it over the phone, they are lying to you. There is a process that has to be gone through, and if they are telling you they can do it over the phone, they're lying. Also, don't be fooled by the phone numbers. They can be spoofed. Anybody know what spoofing is? What is it? Spoofing.
When they put out the number that's not really their number, but it might be a number you recognize.
Yep, it could be a number that you recognize. It could be the actual number to the IRS or to Medicare. It could be a 216 number. It could be a 513 number. It could be a 202 number for Washington, D.C. So don't believe it. Verify it yourself. That's the way that you avoid a scam, that first scam, which is the government imposter scam. Next, the grandparent scam. Now this one gets people because this one tugs on your heartstrings a little bit. You get a call from somebody and they say, "Hi, Grandma. Hi, Grandpa. Do you know who this is?" You think you might know who it is because, let's face it, your grandkids don't call you as much as they should. You don't talk to them as often as you'd like. And you guess who they are. And you may, and then they will take that and they will run with it. Now, that's one way they do it. The second thing they do is they simply just claim to be somebody that you love and care about. They claim to be a grandchild, a niece, a nephew. How many of you have Facebook accounts? How many of you have Facebook accounts for the sole purpose of keeping in touch with family and friends? That's most people. How many of you know there are privacy settings on Facebook? How many of you use them? All right, if you don't, or if you don't know what I'm talking about, after today, go onto Facebook, find your privacy settings, and figure out what you want them to be. And the reason this is important is I already mentioned I have two daughters. One is 23, one is 20. And along with that respect for authority that I mentioned, another thing that young people have just abandoned almost entirely is the notion of privacy. They just don't really care. So one of my kids, I think, has 450 friends on Facebook. She doesn't have 450 friends. She just can't say no when she gets a friend request. And the people that she's friends with, if I don't have my privacy settings set correctly, anything that I post, they can see. So it's not just your friends, but your friends of friends. So every person that my daughter has indiscriminately permitted to be her friend on Facebook can now see the things that I post on Facebook. And why do I bring this up? I bring this up because scammers know that they can find information about people just by going on Facebook. Because people will put information about what? About birthdays, about birthday parties, about their family, about who their family is. So if they want to find out who your grandchild is, guess what? All they got to do is go to Facebook. They're going to figure it out. And they have all the information they need to at least initiate this scam. They will ask for money to solve some problem, all right? At some point in the conversation, they're going to ask for money. It's going to be because they can't pay rent. They lost their job, they need a car repair, or my personal favorite, because they're in jail and they need to get bonded out. They need bail money. Now, the reason that I laugh about that is because I cannot think of anybody in my family, much less my mother, who would bond me out of jail. They would tell me to sit there and think about what I had done. But not everybody is as compassionate. Not everybody is like my mother. Some people are, they get taken in. And these people are very, very good at what they do. And they will ask for gift cards or money transfers. That's your other red flag. So how do you avoid this one? Well, tell your grandchildren to call you more often. That's number one. Number two, you can develop a code word. You can ask family-specific questions. But honestly, the simplest thing to do is simply hang up the phone and call somebody that they know. Call them, first of all, and then if you can't get a hold of them, call somebody else in your family. If it's your grandchild, call their parents. If it's a niece, call their parents. Ask yourself, if they have some information, is it publicly available information? All right? And don't believe them the first time that they call you. All right? Now, that might make them a little upset if it's legitimate, but I guarantee you they'll understand. All right? And look out for the red flags. Demand for money, and that impersonal payment that I mentioned, which is either gift cards or wire transfer. Sweepstakes and lottery scams. How many of you play the lottery? No hands? That young man back there raised his hand, but I think he had a crayon in his hand. All right, we'll give him a pass. The reason I laugh is because we have done, the sheriff, Mr. Peterson, and I have done these presentations at every senior center in Greene County, and we've done them at several churches as well, and nobody wants to admit that they played the lottery. Nobody. I don't know why. I play the lottery if I have any money left at the end of the week that my wife doesn't know about, then I played the lottery. Now, in this scam, you're going to get an email, you're going to get a phone call, you may even get a letter in the mail, and it is informing you that, guess what? You've won the lottery. You are a big winner. Now, they may even send you a fake check inside that letter. And that check will look legitimate. It will be drawn on a legitimate bank. It will have an account that will have a routing number. You will not be able to tell that it is fake. And they will tell you in this communication, all you got to do is go cash that check. Well, all you got to do is deposit it into your account. Let's say that you've won $25,000, and they just need $1,000 to process the payment for you. That's what they need. All right? Now, this scam costs people a lot of money. I guarantee you that check will bounce, but it will only bounce after you have already transferred the money that they have asked for. And this scam does cost people quite a bit of money. Now, how do you protect yourself from this scam? This is going to sound rather obvious, but it's important. Ask yourself, did I play the lottery? Did I enter a sweepstakes? Did I do, and the reason why that's important is because this one plays on two things that are innate in our character as human beings. And the first is greed. And the second is, as we get older, a desire to leave something behind for the people in our family. All right? So if you're an elderly person and you suddenly have somebody that's telling you you've just won $1 million, and it looks legitimate, it can take you in. And Mr. Peterson has some personal experience with regard to these scams that he'll talk to you about when he is up here. Ask the individual to identify themselves or their organization. Okay? Ask for a phone number. Don't believe them. If they give you a phone number, don't believe that phone number. All right? The reason that it's important to do that is so that they know you're on to them. And if they say they're from fill in the blank, the Canadian lottery, that's a scam that is going around. Hang up the phone and guess what? Call the Canadian lottery. Say, hey, I'm a big winner. When do I get my money? And then, of course, they'll laugh at you on the other end of the phone. And then you'll know that this is not legitimate. And lastly, and most importantly, never pay for money that you've won. If somebody tells you that you've won money, you don't pay them to get the money. The romance scam. How many of you have iPhones or smartphones? All right. How many of you have a dating app on your phone? No? No, nobody admits to this one either. No. Now, this scam works. This scam is a testament to loneliness. All right? I told you that the sweepstakes and lottery scam is a testament to greed and a desire to leave something behind. The romance scam is a testament to loneliness. And the reason that it works, especially on seniors, is that if a senior is widowed or they become if they lose their partner, if they lose somebody that they've been with for that long, the desire to fill that hole can be overwhelming. And that's one of the reasons why this works. And you don't need to be on a dating app to fall victim to this. If you have a Facebook account, somebody can send you a message on your Facebook They can send you an email. So you don't have to have a dating app to fall victim to this crime. So this is how this one works. You will meet someone on a social media website. You will communicate electronically, and you may even speak to the person over the phone. You will see pictures of that person. You will see pictures of their family. You will see pictures of celebrations that they have, birthdays, confirmations, baptisms, fill in the blank. There's going to be photographs in there. But I promise you, you will never meet in person. And the person will, guess what? Do you think that they live in Beaver Creek? No. Do you think they live in Cedarville? Kettering? No. They will probably be somewhere very far away. They will probably be in Europe, maybe South America. They'll be in California. And at some point, they are going to want to meet you so that both of your dreams can come true. But to do that, what are they going to need? Money. That's right. They're going to need money for a visa. They're going to need money for a passport, for plane tickets, who knows what else. But they're going to need money. This is a big one. This cost $84 million in 2019 alone. In Yellow Springs, a woman was victimized to the tune of $240,000. And this is so powerful. This is so powerful that even when confronted by friends and family, even when confronted by law enforcement, people will continue to believe that they have found love and they will continue to send money. So how do you protect yourself from this one? Well, give away your heart if you must, but keep your money. Because I guarantee you one thing, I promise you, as I have to promise my two children over the years, you will get over a broken heart. You will not get over losing $240,000. That is not going to happen, especially if you are older and you're on a fixed income. You're not making up $240,000. That money is gone. Avoid relationships that exist exclusively online. Now, I would say don't meet anybody online, but I told my kids that, they laughed at me because that's just what people do. You know, it would never occur to me to meet somebody online, but that's how people meet. So be wary of anyone who makes excuses about meeting in person and watch out for the red flags. Now, the one difference with the romance scam, this is a long con. They're not going to demand money immediately. They are going to build up your trust. They are going to convince you that you are in love, and then they will ask for money. Charity scams. This is the last one. It's exactly what it sounds like. Somebody knocks on your door, they send you a text, send you an email, and they say, we represent a charity, we need help. This one works because Americans are an incredibly generous people, especially at times of tragedy. If you remember the tornadoes that hit here in Beaver Creek, if you remember the horrible flooding down in Florida recently with the hurricane, we want to help people. And scammers they'll use the name of a legitimate charity, or they'll lie and use a different name. But keep in mind, this one does follow disaster. So scammers will insist on immediate payment. This is the #1 red flag for charity scam. I am unaware of any charity that will only take your money on Tuesday, all right? They will take your money on Wednesday. They will take your money on Thursday. So if the person asking you for money says, we got to have it today, it's garbage, and send them on their way. And importantly, you can verify charities. In Ohio, the Attorney General's office has a registration for charities that you can go online and just put in the name of the charity and find out. It is a legitimate charity, all right? But do the research. That's how you don't get scammed by these. So how do you protect yourself? Do the research, go online, never give money in cash, gift cards, or money transfers, and look out for the red flag, which is demand for immediate payment. If anybody doesn't give you time to do research about their charity, it's bogus. Now, those are the national scams. Those are the ones that will take a lot of money, and those are the ones that we will have a difficult time prosecuting. But people still fall victim to crime, even on a smaller scale, especially senior citizens. The type of scam that we prosecute more than any other is financial exploitation. And unfortunately, it occurs at the hands of people that seniors know, all right? You are most likely to get victimized by somebody that you know. Be it a caregiver, be it a family member. That's the reality. They gain control of your assets, money, accounts, and credit. And this is especially a problem for seniors who are isolated or who suffer physical or cognitive disabilities. They're the most at risk. And I'll just give you 3 quick examples. In Fairborn, we had neighbors who befriended an elderly man. He had just lost his wife. His kids lived out of state. He walked with a cane. And one day they started by simply saying, "Can I help you with your groceries?" Okay? Then it was, "You know what? I can do the grocery shopping for you. I just need your debit card, or I just need your bank account." And when faced with the prospect of that kind of help they fall victim to it, and about 2 months later, he was out $4,000. A daughter lived with an aging father. She isolates him from other family members. She becomes a power of attorney. She cleans him out. And then the last one affected somebody in my office. There's an elderly woman who got a phone call and was befriended by a stranger. She was told that she had won some money, but they had to pay her $500. And this was the mother of one of my employees, an attorney. And the only reason he found out was she didn't know how to make a wire transfer. She didn't know. She was going to go get the cash out of the bank and deliver it. They were going to meet. And she told her son that, and of course, her son put a stop to that. So, when you think about financial exploitation on that level, one of the good things about this group clearly is that you have a group. You have a community together. And that's extraordinarily important. So as a community, here are the things you want to look out for to see if somebody is a victim of that type of financial exploitation. They're cut off from family or friends. Someone else is doing the talking for them. If that begins to happen, then that's something you need to keep an eye out for. Their routine suddenly changes without cause. Of course, if somebody has surgery or they have something else going on, you expect the routine to change. But absent that, if something suddenly occurs that's out of the ordinary, pay attention. And then lastly, they have new people who come into their lives, and the new people are younger. Now, this is especially true, and I'm not disparaging men here, but this is especially true of men of a certain age. Because I've seen it. I've prosecuted at least a dozen of these cases where somebody in their mid-70s, a man in their mid-70s, begins spending a lot of time with a woman in her late 20s and early 30s. Now, I'm not saying that, I know that, love knows no age, but that's a red flag, all right? So, the best way to prevent financial exploitation is to make long-term plans while you are still able to do so, or while people in your family are still able to do so. So in conclusion, people are working very, very hard to take your money. So how do you prevent that from happening? And prevention is the key. Number one, what did I tell you is the number one red flag? The communication is unsolicited. You didn't ask for it. It is coming to you. Secondly, they're demanding payment. They are demanding personal identifying information, and the demand is urgent. It has to happen right now, with the only exception being that romance scam. And payment methods are gift cards or wire transfers. So at the end of the day, it's prevention not only for those big scams, but it's also keeping an eye out for each other to make sure that you can prevent it within your groups and within your own family. So keep an eye out for each other. And when in doubt, call the cops or the prosecutor's office. The sheriff will talk more about what the sheriff's office can do. I can't promise you that we can get your money back. I can't promise you that we can do what we and prosecute someone depending upon the facts of the case. But I can promise you that if you let us know what's going on, that we can help the next person not be a victim. And if that's all that we can do, we've done something. So that's all that I have, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn things over to Sheriff Scott Anger. Thank you.
It's a privilege to be here. David Hayes does a great job with his presentation, and I'm glad that we started doing these, and we've done around 13 or 14 of these now. Again, as he said, prevention is the absolute most important thing. I'll go over some things that are personal to me because it happened to my parents. I'll go over some things that kind of we're seeing in the county. But the last few weeks, we've had a major increase just in the cases that are coming into our office. And they're changing up a little bit on some of them, but a lot of them are these same scams that he covered so well earlier. But again, just speaking on behalf of myself, it's kind of personal to me because I know my parents, before they passed, were victims of or targeted for some of these types of crimes. And luckily, with some help with some people at the right time, they avoided losing a lot of money. But it doesn't matter who you are, how smart you are. These people are really, really good. And again, if you know somebody that's being scammed, you got to intervene and help them because it can, because of the embarrassment or whatever, people just do not report it. And by the time they do report it to us, a lot of times it's just almost too late to even have a chance to do anything. So when we report things, I think we have a social media page that we try to do good with. Sometimes people take things off of our social media and use our names and some different things to even do these scams. But we have 10,000 followers. So what we try to do is get these kinds of things out on our social media so people can know what's going on with scams. I think we got one we're going to put up later on this week that's been really popular. But it's Greene County Sheriff's Office. You can go there and see our Facebook page. Again, the grandparent scam is the one that's personal with me because my parents, on 2 occasions, had that happen. And one time they were actually all the way down to Kroger to wire the money. And the lady knew, my parents knew me, and said, I don't think you want to do this. And even the good people that are trying to stop people have little limits because they can only make suggestions. A lot of times they can't go over a certain line, you know. But again, that worked out for them. We've had a lot of recent ones in Greene County with calling with fake investigators from banks saying there's something wrong with your account or there was a charge on your account that you didn't know about. And what they're really doing, what we want everybody to know, how many people in here use Bitcoin? Okay. Yeah, so it's not something people our age usually, I always tell people I'm a young baby boomer, so it's also personal to me because I'm over 60 now, so you know, this is all really important to me and everybody. But Bitcoin has been the way that they've had people go transfer the money. So they've actually, I didn't realize it, but there's about 9 or 10 Bitcoin machines like ATMs just in the city of Xenia. So people, they're directing people to go. So if you hear anybody directing somebody to go to a Bitcoin ATM, you can bet it's probably a new scam that's going on locally. We've also had one, and I talk a little bit about the different things that happen with the home repairs and the different kinds of things. I had that personal experience with my parents where people tried to come and I'd have to intervene and they would try to come and get some work done. And you know, my parents were like a lot of people when they get a little bit older, when they're retired, they don't like to wait. You know, I could say I could be over to do it on Saturday, but that was going to be too long. So they would get some people to help them or different people would come to the door and they'd go, why not? I need this done. But we got to really watch that kind of thing, especially now, because really anybody that's able-bodied, that's able to work right now should be able to find a job. They should have a job and they should have references. And again, use your church community to help protect yourself. So ask your church community before you make a decision about a contractor or a roofer or somebody putting on new sidings or an awning or a patio porch or any of that kind of stuff, and just be real careful. The reason I bring these up at all is because we have had some success with these types of scams. Usually if they become civil in nature, meaning you give them some money and you come up with a verbal agreement, that a lot of times will make it where we can't prosecute it. But so just realize that these people are going to try to ask for a lot of money up front, more than normal to get the materials and do all that, and you may never see them again. So just please be careful with those kinds of things. You'll get the ones where they're going to shut off your electricity, those scams. I don't know if anybody's had those kind of calls, but you know, it could be 0 degrees out and somebody's calling saying, if you don't pay this bill right now, we're going to turn off your electricity. And like Prosecutor Hayes says, that's not what the companies do. AES and DP&L, those kind of companies, Duke Energy, they don't call and do that. So if you get a call like that, you know that's not true. One of the things I do talk about a little bit, just because it was always confusing to me and my parents, how many of you get lots of solicitations about who to buy your electricity from? Okay, that in itself is very confusing, and it's kind of caused me to delve into that a little bit, but I'm not sure which location all of you live in, but in Greene County, if you're in the unincorporated area, Harbor Energy actually has a 4.47 cent kilowatt hour rate. And a lot of the communities have these agreements in aggregation where you can actually get a better rate. Currently, AES is 10.9 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you have that available to you, it's very important. The other thing is, yes?
I just want to add some credence to that. So I actually just did that.
Me too.
And I wasn't aware of the Greene County aggregate program, and I found that a lot of people aren't. And it was real easy. I just called the phone number, and they got me switched from, I think I was paying over 10 cents. Didn't know. I thought it was just that's what I should be paying.
Yeah, so
Down that four set rate, so it's a big difference.
so if you have AES, it's 10.9, which is kind of average, really. I mean, so if you have that, the only good thing I'll say is it's fixed. It's a fixed rate. It doesn't go up on you. A lot of these ones you sign up for, you'll sign up for a low rate, and then it'll be variable, and you won't know that it goes up to 20 cents a kilowatt hour, and then that's how they get you on that. So if you want to, you do want to check with your local where you live. I know City of Xenia has the aggregation, the county has it, and the county's in the process of doing it for gas as well. But those are some areas where people really get confused and get scammed, and it can cost you a lot of money. And that's through a legitimate company. Let's see. I wanted to just talk about some of these recent scams that we had. One of them was basically somebody coming out to the home and doing the work, and somebody builds up your trust. So they come out and they do some tree trimming, or they do some house work around your house, and they get to know you and know more about you, and you get more comfortable. And they know where you keep your cash. And then we just had a recent one about a month ago that, these people come back. And this particular person came back at night, did a home invasion. This was out in the township, and it was a violent crime. So that's still in the works. So these are kinds of things that will happen. You just got to really be careful about who you're letting in your house and those types of things. Again, even the home health care. Again, that's a personal experience I had with my parents, just having to watch over who's helping out with your relatives when they're coming in the house, what kinds of things you leave laying around that they might see that they don't need to see, and different things like that. Let's see. We have one that's going on right now that all three of us are aware of that just came through my office. I think it actually came through because they knew we were out doing these kinds of things. And we actually tell everybody that prevention is why we're out here, because it's really the only tool we have is prevention. And this particular scam was the romance scam. And this person, this person that I went to high school with called, says, hey, this is happening to my dad. And it's going on right now, and he won't believe me. He won't believe my sister. He won't believe me, and he's already sent $40,000 or $50,000 to this person. And so this is continuing at this time with no guardian in place, with no power of attorney in place. These people are powerless to stop him because he's still considered competent to make decisions. Like they say, even though you make bad decisions, it's hard to take somebody's ability to be considered competent away. So that's why we were talking about making your plans ahead of time, because this is really heartbreaking to watch and not be able to do anything about. So we're doing everything we can to maybe intervene and do whatever, but there's a good chance that this person will sell their house and is in the process of selling their house and thinks they're going to move to another state and live happily ever after. And this person doesn't believe their family and doesn't believe anybody. That's how good these people are. And that's what we tell people, don't be ashamed. These people are really good. And, we need to work together to help each other, look out after each other. Just like David Hayes says, the red flags, we got to look out for those for ourselves. We got to look out for those for our other people that we care about, to make sure that we help the best we can. We've had lots and lots of these examples of the sweepstakes with large losses. I mean, I can tell you personally, when I was taking some calls in Xenia, we had some people lose their house because they would not believe. They maybe had family up in the east part of the United States and nobody around here to watch after them. And, we would go out, take complaints, because they would call from out of state saying this is going on. We'd intervene, do the best we could, and then we'd find out later they were back to doing the same things to the point where they lost their house. So anyway, it's kind of depressing. So I'll have to throw something else in here. So I know there's at least one person that golfs in here. So does anybody know why you take an extra pair of socks when you go golfing? In case man, that's getting too old now. In case you get a hole in one. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna have to get a better dad joke. Also, the used car scams. Right now, used cars are really, really hard to come by. The prices of used cars have went way up. We have had a lot of natural disasters around the country where cars get flooded out and they may or may not have good electronics left in them. You may find that deal that's just too good to be true, and it probably is too good to be true. So really, we get a lot of those kinds of scams that go on. We're having a lot of problems with the sporting event tickets now. A lot of people, I'm one of the people that just likes having that stub in my hand and know that I've got something. This whole idea about putting it on my phone and hoping it works when I get there, I don't know if I like that too well. But a lot of people are cloning these tickets, selling tickets that they don't really have, and people are paying big bucks. I know. Prosecutor bought some Taylor Swift tickets, and that was a joke. So anyway, I know your time's important, and I want you to be able to ask questions. But I just want you to kind of know in Greene County that if you have a question, call somebody. If you have a question, we may not be able to fix it. But at least if we know what kind of scams are going on, we can put it up on our website. We can coach you through what you should or shouldn't do. So I know some of you probably are under Beaver Creek Police Department. They're very good. The county, you can call us. We have a new sheriff's app. So how many people use apps in here? Okay. We have a Greene County, Ohio Sheriff's app, and I have some cards I can give out if anybody wants one of them to just do what do they call those codes? QR codes. See, I'm still trying to get used to these QR codes. So it even has a QR code on it. But if you go to Greene County, Ohio Sheriff's, and there's several Greene County, Ohio's in the country, we have our own app. And this app has a lot of different features to it. You can go on there and see who the sexual offenders are in your area. You can go on and see who's in jail. You can go on and see what real estate from the sheriff's office is for sale. It has a listing of every police department, every fire department, every government agency in the county and their website. You can click right onto it from your phone. It puts out road closings. It also, just anything weather related, you'll get it as quick as the National Weather Service has it. So this is a tool that we're using in the county that's the way people get information now. The apps is the way people want to be notified. We even have our applications for employment information is on that. We're trying to get it to where people can just absolutely file a application by using that app, because that's how people want to get employed. And that's another thing. So we have getting people to employed is another difficult thing right now, finding qualified people, especially for our corrections. We had a guy come in the other day, and we told him he had to do a drug test. And he said, "Is that a urine or written?" And I said, "It's a urine." He goes, "Okay, I'll need 3 weeks to study." It's hard finding good people. But anyway, I think David will probably talk a little bit about the Fleming's scam with that exploitation, with the invitation to that. But again, if there's ever anything we can do for you, we really love doing this. I've been around for 38 years in law enforcement. I've been the sheriff since November of 2021. We have a really good team at the sheriff's office, and we're here to help you any way we can help you. As long as I'm sheriff, I can tell you we're going to be a hands-on sheriff's office. We're not going to take reports over the phone unless it's some emergency. We're going to come out and see people. We're going to come out and talk to people. So if you ever have a problem with that or anything that we can do better, that app has a thing to submit tips on. So even if you're a different agency and you submit a tip, I can get a hold of Beaver Creek. I can get a hold of anybody you want. So we'll take any kind of feedback anytime that you have, and we work for you, and it's an honor to be your sheriff. So thank you, and I'll stick around for questions.
Good afternoon. I think it's almost afternoon. You know, I should ask this. I don't think I've done it before, but does anybody feel like they want to take a break? Or say, just want to move right through this? Want to get through it? Are you getting tired of hearing about scams yet? Okay, well, so my name's David Peterson. I've been an attorney, and I'm sorry about these glasses. I didn't have my bifocal, so I'm going to be looking down my nose here. But my name is David Peterson. I've been an attorney in Greene County for about 38 years with the law firm of Peterson & Peterson. My father was an attorney. Maybe some of you're older, you remember an attorney by the name of Marshall Peterson. In fact, he used to be Greene County prosecutor himself. And then my uncle, who was older than him, was a former Greene County prosecutor. So that's where you get the Peterson & Peterson from. So I've been in Greene County for a very long time. And I always start out by saying it's a shout out to David and to Scott, in that before David and Scott came along, I didn't see these kind of presentations very often. And we've now done, I think we've been through 14 presentations. And something that I learned, and thanks to David and Scott, is that Greene County has like 10 senior citizen centers. You know, and they're in each village, and we've visited each and every one of them. And so there's a lot of people that come together to support one another. But we're lucky to have David as our prosecutor. We're lucky to have Scott as our sheriff. They're doing a fantastic job. And I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you about what I call elder abuse. It's something that is really, really prevalent in Greene County. I'm just one attorney, and I have just been overwhelmed with discussions about scams. So David talked about 3 or 4 common scams, but I believe that there are more scams than there are stars in the sky. And I also believe that it's been going on long before the digital age arrived. My father used to call it the pigeon drop. Okay? And he would talk to me about it. But I remember when my father was still an attorney, when this all started, he got a check in the mail one day. And it was for like $35,000, a client. And the client wanted information about being able to deposit that. And he took, he got involved in it, and he contacted the Xenia Daily Gazette, and they did a story on it. And this has been quite some time ago. So it started, this kind of thing has started, but it's getting worse now by the day. And it's getting so bad, the way this has evolved, that I'm beginning to think that there needs to be, and we all hate more government, but I believe that there probably needs to be a federal agency that is going to do more from the prosecutorial side to pursue people that are taking advantage of our seniors. Okay? And I know it's another government agency, but this is one that's just taking so much money away from our seniors. I mean, just you've heard a little bit here, but it is, and then there's a lot of it, like David said, that's just unreported. So if I were to ask you in this room, say, how many people here have been the victim of a scam? Anybody? There's one. Anybody else want to admit that they have? There's one? Okay. How many people know somebody that's been a victim of a scam? Oh my goodness. See, look at all the hands that just went up. And when I tell these stories, a lot of times people will start laughing, like, oh, that never happened to me. But the truth is, it happens to a lot of people. And so even since the last time we talked, which has been a few weeks ago, I've had 3 or 4 new ones that have come into the office. And one of them is crypto. So I had a gentleman who invested a significant sum of money. I don't even think I told David or Scott about this one, but he invested a significant amount of money. And he actually came to me for estate planning. And in the course of the estate planning, I always get all the information I need so I can give advice. And he says, oh, I have, and his daughter was with him. He says, oh, I have some cryptocurrency. And I said, you do? I said, well, who do you have that with? And he gave me the name of a company. And I said, okay. I said, well, now, you're 92 years old. I would recommend, since there's no beneficiary designation on that cryptocurrency, we want to avoid probate. So I would recommend you sell it. He goes, oh, I don't know if I want to sell it. I think it might make more money. And I said, well, I think you should. Okay, get rid of it because it doesn't have the beneficiary designation and it's going to be difficult taking it through probate. So sure enough, about a week later, I get a phone call from the daughter saying, oh, they're telling him it's not a wise idea to withdraw the money. Okay, so it was a scam. And I just saw another report about a gentleman who got involved. I call this the crypto romance scandal. Okay, so this is a gentleman that gets involved in a kind of a relationship with somebody, and he was lonely. And it was a little bit of a long con. And eventually, he agreed to give money to invest in crypto with somebody he thought was his friend now. And he gave away a significant sum of money. And this is a guy that was competent. You see, these are people that are, and I'm going to talk to you in a minute about people who are not competent, but these are people that are competent that are giving their money away, right? And so if you think, I guess I'll get back to the moral of the story is if you think it can't happen to you, it can. I'm going to go through these real quick because you've already heard some. But yes, I've had the lady who gave away $240,000 to the Canadian lottery. I asked her daughter, I said, did she play the Canadian lottery? And no. Okay, but when I explored it further, she believed that the money that she had won would go down to her grandchildren. She could provide, finally provide some kind of legacy for her grandchildren. And so they told her she had to prepay taxes. She even started taking loans out on a brokerage account. Okay, so that's one. I had another lady on a smaller scale that took out $8,000, went down to the bank, took $8,000 out in cash, put it in an envelope, and mailed it off to the Canadian lottery. Now the banks, shame on the bank for that. In fact, we got involved with the bank and the bank ended up reimbursing the money after we investigated it because she was elderly and she was obviously having some issues and they let her withdraw $8,000. The other one that's starting to catch on now a little bit is bank scams. So how many of you, when you go into, like I just had this happen last night, I went out and bought some salt for my water softener and I went in and as I was checking out, it was a place I don't normally go. So as I was checking out, the young lady says, now, what's your phone number? And I looked at her and said, why would you need my phone number? I'm just paying for 8 bags of salt here. Yeah. And she goes, oh, yeah, you could be part of our program. And I said, no. I said, I don't want to give you my phone number. So we all do this all day long. We'll go into a store. It can be Walmart. It can be anywhere. And they'll say, okay, what's your email? What's your phone number? So here's what I'm going to recommend to you. Don't do it. Now, why don't you want to do it? Because the reason they're asking for all that is either to solicit to you or sell it, right? Okay? And so why would you want to give up your privacy? So don't do it. The less you give out, the better. So be very, very careful about your privacy. Just don't give information out. So the romance scandal, I've had several of those. The last one I had was a woman who met an English fella online, and the usual red flag, she had never actually seen him face to face. She was lonely, her husband had died, and she gave away $18,000. And her daughter was there, and when I was talking with the daughter and the mother, I said, he's not real. And she says, oh, no, he's real. And the daughter would just roll her eyes at me. I said, no, no, ma'am, he's not real. It's not, might not even be a he. So at any rate, she was still convinced, and that's how they work. They work on what I call the Lonely Heart Club people who, they just want somebody to talk to, and it's a long con, so eventually they'll say, in fact, the one with her, they didn't even have to ask her for money. He had worked on her for about a month, and at the end he said something like, I'd love to come see you, but right now things are a little tough. She says, don't worry, I'll send you money. Didn't even have to ask for it. So did he commit a crime? I don't know. Is that a crime if you just give your money away? I don't know. Anyway, but that's one. And then the other one that I had was a guy who gave $45,000 to who he thought was the IRS. Right? I don't think I said this already. So I was talking about that thing about privacy because, have you heard these reports where they'll say, like, let's say you have a Target credit card, and all of a sudden you hear that Target has been hacked, and all their information that they had on people went out, right? So once people, the hackers, gain that information, they now have your personal information. Then how do they use that? They use that then by contacting people and making them believe there's somebody other than who they are. So a recent one is with I think it was PNC Bank. So if anybody has an account with PNC Bank, I had a couple that they got an account alert saying, I think David talked about this a little bit, but it's bank fraud. They got an account alert saying, hey, your account has been overdrawn. There's some fraud going on here. We're going to cover it, but for right now, you need to put money back into the account. And they'll even say, it'll even have their account number on there. Why? Because they've hacked it. Then they spoof the phone number, so you think it's PNC Bank or whoever. Okay? So what you do is you just hang up the phone, or you get off the internet and you call your bank and you say, hey, is this real? In fact, with a lot of these, even like the grandchild scam, you could just hang up the phone and then call your grandchild. Say, hey, are you in trouble? Or call the parents. Say, is Junior in trouble? So always think, use your head and think, what can I do to avoid becoming prey for these people? It just angers me the more I think about it. And here's where it really gets me, is that it's not just scammers. Sometimes it's neighbors, friends, and other people that take advantage. So I had a gentleman who lost his wife. He was widowed, and he was at a local senior citizen center, and somebody kind of sidled up to him over a period of time and said, hey, I can take care of you. Went into his home. I'm going to make a long story short. She was still taking money out of his bank account on the day he died. And this was somebody he met at a senior citizen center. So if you find yourself in that situation where you're alone, you're isolated, first of all, avoid that. Come to groups like this. Stay with people that you can trust and you have familiarity with. Don't start hiring people that you've hardly ever seen before. And if you do hire somebody for home health care, then you make sure you get in touch with the Greene County Council on Aging. I do a lot of work through their agency and a lot of volunteer work. In fact, I'm getting ready to do a seminar for them. And they're just a really great group of people, and they're free. They're an agency in Greene County that you can call, and they can tell you who the best people are, who are bonded, and that kind of thing. So lean on them if you need to. I think Sheriff Anger was talking about, he called it a scam. I don't call it a scam. I call it marketing. From the time we get up in the morning until we go to bed, we are marketed to. Do you all agree with that? Yeah. Like something's going to make our hair grow or make all our wrinkles go away. And if we just pay $80 a month, it's just, life is just going to be so good, right? So we're being marketed to. So how many people have, this is a marketing, I call it a marketing scam, but how many people have gotten the free steak dinner card? Have you gotten that? Okay. Sheriff Anger has a slide on this because he got one. Okay.
This is the
right?
one I keep getting.
Yeah. But I love this story. Mainly, it's not just to tell you about this, because it's not just about this marketing. These marketers, see this? Scott Anger, come have a free dinner. Okay, I know. So what I'm telling you about this is it's not just them. It's anybody who you allow to market to you. You know, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true, is what I like to say. So when they offer you a free steak dinner, do you think the steak dinner's free? No. It's being paid for by people that they took money from before you. Okay? So the reason I know so much about this, and it happens right over here at Fleming's at the Greene, and they're still doing it, is because I represent somebody who used to be a principal or that was familiar with one of the firms that market. And he resigned, and he told me what they do. And so they'll usually have this young, attractive, blonde receptionist that welcomes everybody in and says, here, come on in, folks, have your free steak dinner. But before you do that, I have a little form I want you to fill out. And it states all your assets and your liabilities. And people just go, oh, yeah, I'm getting a steak dinner, so here. They start filling that thing out, right? And then after they get done filling it out, the young lady says, okay, now we're going to take you into where the steaks are. And then she takes those forms while they're eating and runs them back to the boys in the back room. And they start going through them. And what they do is they look at the folks that have money and they target them. And they throw away the people that don't have money. Okay? So a few years ago, they did that to a gentleman who had no next of kin, and he was worth about $3 million or so. And they figured that out, so they started targeting him. And the attorney there that was doing the presentation, after the dinner was over with, he went up to him and said, hey, you need help? You know, I can help you. And so this guy very trustingly went to his office a few days later, and that attorney prepared a trust for him, and he made himself the trustee. The attorney made himself the trustee and said, I'll take care of you. And the really sad thing is that this gentleman wanted all of his assets, the $3 million, to go to things like St. Jude's and Shriners, all children's charities. And this particular attorney then, after he got himself appointed as trustee, took, I don't know, about $1 million to $1.5 million for things like plastic surgery, trips to Vegas, and a little bit of everything. But here's the reason I tell that story, is because that happened in our backyard. Right? It's right here. We always think those stories are someplace else. That happened right here. And David Hayes, and Scott Anger may have been involved. I forget, it might have been before him, but he prosecuted the attorney. And he's in prison right now. At least the last I heard, he's in prison. I assume he's still in prison. And of course, he'll never practice law again. We hope. He wasn't practicing law to begin with. He was practicing a different kind of art. Okay. Well, anyway, that's my story. So, but remember when I say that, you know, I tend to say that about a lawyer, and everybody says, oh yeah, everybody knows lawyers are horrible, right? Okay. We all say that, right? But the truth is, that's not the case. There are good people and there are bad people in this world, and it's true in all professions. So you can ask a guy to come out and check your furnace, and you think, oh, my furnace isn't working, and it might be a $200 repair job, but the guy says, oh, you need a new furnace, it's going to cost $10,000, right? And that kind of thing happens all the time, and if you allow yourself to be susceptible to it, well, it's going to happen. Or the tree trimmer. I notice your trees need trimmed. You didn't notice your trees need trimmed, okay, but they did, and now they're going to take your money, and they might even threaten to put a mechanic's lien on your property when you don't pay them the outrageous amount they want for trimming a few trees. So be careful about people that market to you. Be careful about everybody. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is, what do I see the most often in my office is a very uncomfortable topic. And that is when people get older, they start to have neurological problems. Some of the people in this room, in fact, there probably are a couple, and definitely family members or friends that you know that have things like Alzheimer's, dementia, or they're having severe memory loss. Or as I like to say, if one day I go around the corner and I call my wife June instead of Carol, it's time to do something, okay? Because you know, if that happens, but there's a lot of people that have Alzheimer's, dementia, severe memory loss, and that kind of thing. So what I see, and this is what makes me very angry, is that the scammers are waiting for people to start having the neurological problems. So you might not be a victim right now. This is the thing I want to convey to you, is they're waiting. They're waiting. So now how do you prevent being taken advantage of in that way? Well, first of all, it takes a lot of self-recognition. You have to understand it's okay to let go and lose control if you are somebody who's having dementia or Alzheimer's, you've been diagnosed with that. So you have to have somebody you trust a lot and family members that you trust a lot that you can say, hey, I need your help. And we call that a fiduciary then. It's a power of attorney. So if you appoint somebody as your power of attorney, then that person can then write your checks for you. They can deposit your money. They can do all the things that you would do for yourself. The hard thing is a lot of people don't want to lose control. They think, oh, now I'm one step away from the nursing home. No, you're one step away from being scammed. So don't be afraid to let loose and say, it's okay to let somebody else help me. If you know a family member that has problems and they still have access to their bank account, you better have an intervention or do something before they lose their money, because that's when it happens. The woman that I was telling you about that lost over $200,000, she had Alzheimer's, but her family still allowed her to have access to her brokerage account. So you don't want that happening. You want to intervene. And it's not just with family members. If you see a neighbor that appears to be isolated and distressed, or anybody, then you can even get a hold of the Greene County Council on Aging, and they can help you to maybe get them assistance so they're not taken advantage of. So, okay. So I tell everybody that the power of attorneys are very important. If you haven't established a relationship with an attorney, you should do so just to get the basic documents. You don't have to have complex documents, the basic documents. By doing a simple power of attorney, you're avoiding something called a legal guardianship. Everybody heard of guardianships? Yes. So a guardianship is very expensive, and that's when you have to impose against somebody else the ability to take care of their affairs. So every month in my office, I get somebody in, they'll say, oh, I'll use a recent example. It was actually a wife and a husband, and her husband had a stroke. And she did not have a power of attorney, and she was running into a problem. And I said, well, unfortunately, we need to go through a legal guardianship to get you appointed. And it's a very onerous, burdensome, expensive process. So by having that simple power of attorney in advance before you become incompetent, then that will avoid those issues. So everybody should have a last will and testament. Everybody knows what that is. Everybody should have a power of attorney for finances. Everybody should have a living will with a power of attorney for healthcare. And the living will is that document that says if you're permanently unconscious or terminally ill, you don't want to be kept alive by artificial means. But attached to that is the power of attorney for healthcare. So both the healthcare power of attorney and the financial power of attorney, they need to work together to avoid a guardianship. If you have one but not the other, you can still be involved in a guardianship. So that's pretty much everything I have to say. I literally could talk about this on and on and on, but the main thing is don't allow yourself to become a victim. Guard your privacy. Don't give out information on the phone. How many people have a private phone line? Okay. And I find that it's the older generations that hold on to that private phone line. However, there's an exception in the room. I think our prosecutor still has a home line, okay? And I've told him not to, but they're actually just a port, okay, for two types of people, charities and scammers, okay? Right? You all agree with that? And the number one thing that everybody says is, oh, but I can see who's calling, right? But how many times do you pick up the phone anyway? And then you sit there and go, oh, okay, this is what this is, all right? So it's better not to have that, and it's going to go to our cell phones next. It's already starting with that. So you don't want two ports in your home where you could potentially be taken advantage of. Okay, so no information over the phone. Don't do it. If somebody's soliciting to you, then that's a red flag. Stay away from them, okay? All right.